who don't know, and I know we've given Kyle a little introduction, but for those of you who don't know, Kyle and I go back a ways. So I have known Kyle from the tender age of 13. So he's probably what constitutes my brother, in the broad sense of the word, in that he was ultra protective when I was growing up, and I was sassy and talkative and aggressive, and I don't know, all these great words. It took quite a special person to get through to me, and Kyle was one of the people that often got through to me. And I would usually go to him when I had no other options, instead of going to him when he was the first option. Should have been the first option. And interestingly, I spoke to my husband's cousin, Corinne Nass, who you remember, and she was like, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh yes, he was the one I was supposed to go to. And I was like, right. So for the longest time that I can remember, you've always had an influence over people and over the decisions that people make. And it's so interesting that you've now become an expert in your field, and you support individuals in developing the confidence to be courageous, right? Because I feel like you've always been a developer in some way, shape, or form. Like, if I'm thinking way back to my little grade 7 year when I first met you before I get to high school, like, you always saw potential in people, which was an incredible thing to have. And I don't think I ever recall you being, I want to say, like, I don't think I ever recall you being in a bad mood for like the whole day. Like, you would have moments of, this sucks. Okay, let me do it. Let me get it, and we'd get it done, and then you would be fine. But there was never, like, you were never in a bad mood for the whole day. Like, I don't ever remember a time. I'm trying to actually pierce the recesses of my mind, but I just don't. I don't remember a time where you were ever in a bad mood. Like, you got cross, but you got over it quickly. You would get angry about something, but then you would sort it out, pivot, redirect, and change. So I feel like the space that you're in now is almost like we should have seen coming, because you've always had this innate ability to pivot, to redirect, to overcome your fear, to walk into situations where most people were just like, no, not really. We'd maybe not walk into those situations. So we know that courage, stated simply, is the ability to confront, not to avoid, but to confront a physical, emotional, or psychological obstacle that may cause some anxiety, or fear, or apprehension. Is that, like, in your estimation, would that statement be correct?
Yeah, well, first of all, I adore you, and I loved all the years that we've had, and just as you were reflecting, my brain just went down such a beautiful memory path, the names you mentioned and the things we've gone through, and just re-accessing that. And thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing me in the way that you see me. I'm always very grateful for that. It means a lot. It really means a lot. And you're one of the very few that also has gotten through to me, and that we've just been able to have this relationship for decades, which is amazing. Courage is interesting. I think my framing on courage, the confront, not avoid, I think is a really interesting framing of it. The way I've come to learn what courage is that people are always trying to say be fearless or remove fear, and the reason why we avoid things is because of pain. We want to move away from pain. We want to move away from anguish. We want to move away from past experiences that seem to be, that the qualities of those past experiences seem to be recreating themselves in our future. And so we want to avoid that. Now, to me, the concept of courage, or even of fear, what constitutes avoidance, and avoidance is obviously, this is going to feel hard. It's going to feel psychologically unsafe. It's going to do something to my body that I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy the physical or mental sensation. That to me tracks down to belief. And the belief is that we're believing something in that moment. And the believing in something in that moment is that, and I really have simplified it in the research down to two simple things, is that we either giving our fear energy or we can give our courage energy. And not many people realize they have an abundance of courage. They feel like they have to do something really crazy in order to gain courage. But what's interesting is courage is always present. It's a switch you can flip on. And so the confront to avoid, in my experience, is that you are believing in something greater than what you're trying to avoid. So we
Mm,
confront it when we go, look, I'm about to have a hard conversation, or I have to, give hard feedback, or I have to do something I've been avoiding because it makes me uncomfortable. But the outcome, like the not doing, is worse than the doing of it. So
true.
the courage is to say that the outcome that I'm dreaming of, or I'm imagining, or what I prefer to have instead, outweighs the fear. So I'm going to confront it. I'm going to lead in it because the cost of avoiding of it is far greater than the cost of actually confronting it. Is the way I'd look at it, and it's such an interesting human dynamic that I will spend probably the rest of my life living on the edge of that decision.
Mm.
It really
It's
is
so
an edge.
interesting. That's interesting because I was actually going to say the thing I always ask myself when I'm faced with the decision to be courageous is I'm always going to be courageous. That's just
Yeah, you're
like,
wired that way.
I'm just going to do it. But I will always ask myself in the moment, what is the cost of giving into your fear? What is it going to cost you?
It's a great question.
And with that, I don't even have to answer it because I immediately know, well, I'm not going to give into the fear because it's not, I don't have the fear. Like, that's not going to be my story. My story is not going to be the giving into fear thing. But for someone who has been operating out of pain and stagnating in fear, how easy would you say it is to flip that switch? Like, what is it that's going to flip the switch?
Sure. The it take I think it's taken a lot of curiosity and discovery to get to what I think is the switch. The switch is a simple question: is it true? And it turns
Yeah.
out that 99.9999% of everything that we ever fear never ever happens, and it's never going to happen. And if you
Mm,
track back, like one of the exercises I will do with the highest level senior executives, right down to young kids, when I have the privilege, and I'll call it the privilege, to be sitting with somebody who's vulnerable enough to be be expressing fear or anxiety to me. And I felt like, I've been in so many of those situations where, just like you shared earlier, like folk will come to me, and through my life, people have come to me at certain moments in their life, and I found that they've come to me for a few reasons. And one of them was like, I'm really struggling, I'm really suffering with something. And it was an
mm,
interesting pressure to have, because you kind of have to have an answer and
yeah.
you want to be able to help a person. And to be honest, most of the time I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. But there was always something that would channel through. And I think
Mm,
this was this interesting relationship that built with courage. But through this, I've come to realize that when I've questioned and done inquiry into what people are fearing, or the anxiety, the apprehensions they have, the things that they are just so paralyzed, they're either fighting against or they're in freeze against, they never, ever, ever come true. And most of them are illusions. Most of them are fictitious
mm,
stories that we tell ourselves in our mind. And so, um, knowing that 99.9999% of most of these things never, ever come true, humans around us have been building lives. They with in marriages, they in jobs, they live in places, they have identities, which are not, they're not living in their authenticity and their truth. They're living in the perception that if this fear came true, it would be so drastic for me. So I better not do the thing. I'm going to avoid these things. And then I live into a fear
mm,
state. And then the fear state, humans are also interesting, is that we will reinforce ourselves. We have biases. I think there's lots of scientific research on, like, there's 7 or 8 different kinds of biases that we lean into. But if you ask somebody, okay, write down your fear. So this is the exercise for those listening. This is the exercise. Just in your own quiet time, write down everything you fear personally, professionally, in life. Just write down the fear. I'm afraid I will lose my job. I'm afraid this person will leave me. I'm afraid a car will come out of nowhere and knock me over. I'm afraid an alien will land on and steal my brain. Like, I don't know. It's crazy what people fear.
Mm.
Then in one column, write down your fears. In the second column next to that, just say, is it true? Can you know that it's going to come true? Where's the evidence and the proof? And the chances are that almost 100% of the time, it's you cannot know.
Mm.
And there's no proof that it will come true. And
Mm.
so what's interesting in that moment is what I've come to now lean into is to say, so let me reframe it. So imagine you have an abundance of courage. You have an unlimited resource, the same way that there's oxygen and air on this planet, or there's water in the oceans. You have this unlimited ability to tap into infinite courage. What would your courage recommend you do in this moment? If you didn't
Mm.
believe the fear, but you lean into the courage, and without hesitation, an answer comes.
Yeah.
And then people are left with a choice. And the
Mm.
choice is you can believe your illusion,
Mm-hmm.
or you can come to realization it's not true. And then you
Mm.
can take a courageous action to actually believe in something bigger and
Yep.
better. And so, and just so you know, like some of the origins of this inquiry really solidified when I got to work with an incredible woman called Byron Katie. I went to some of
Yep.
her workshops. She wrote her most famous book is called Loving What Is. Her
Mm.
role in life is to free the world from stressful thinking. And
Ooh,
she
I
says
like
that
that.
if you are under anxiety and you're in fear, or under you're feeling frustration, pressure, and fear, the chances are that you are believing a thought that doesn't exist or that isn't true. You're fighting with reality.
Mm.
And the thing to do is to question your thinking and to question your thoughts. And so in some of the frameworks, she has that similar phrasing of like, well, can you know that this thing is going to happen, this thing that you're
Mm.
mad at? And then her questioning is, so what happens when you believe the thought? And you'll notice that if you believe a negative thought and you believe
Mm.
a fear, in my world, fear to courage, if you believe a fear, how do you start to treat the situation, yourself, and other people?
Mm-hmm.
And you will notice that you have all these crazy behaviors from like comfort eating and avoidance and being moody and, like
Mm.
just you become a different person. And then who
Yep.
would you be without that thought? And in this case, it would be, who would you be if you didn't believe the fear and you rather believed in the courage? And what you will notice is that you will actually feel a mental and physical state shift. So I know it's a long answer, but if I come back to the source of this, is the switch is to question, is what I'm fearing true? Is it
Yeah.
true? Ask yourself,
Mm.
is it true? And I guarantee it will be no. And then you have the responsibility to step into
Mm.
the choice. And the choices, and I say that one of my purposes in life, apart from encouraging the future, bringing courage to as many people as I can, is that I would like to leave any situation, any conversation that I've given someone a choice. I've left someone with a choice, like a red and a blue
Mm.
pill in the Matrix. I've left
I
someone
love
with a
that.
choice. And the choice is, from this moment forward, you can design your life through fear or you can design your life through courage. The power is in your
Mm.
hands.
Mm.
Is it
Mm.
true? Is the trigger?
And that's such a valid question, because I think, especially in the field of mental health, there are so many people struggling out there, and people who have had horrific things happen to them, horrific things that we would not even contemplate, or for us, we would kind of go, no, that would never happen. That's not true. But for them, it's a very real scenario. It has happened. They have endured it. They have gone through it, and they are literally suffering under what has happened. And so for mental health purposes, which is obviously the arena that I'm in, um, I'm always challenged when I'm faced with someone who cannot see a window, who cannot see a door, who cannot see, all they see is locks and chains and bars, and it's always a challenge to kind of flip that thinking on its head and get them to kind of refocus and go, okay, like, let's start small, right? What is your advice to someone who's maybe in that state of mental health because of circumstances that have happened to them? And I don't want to go too much into that, like what has
Sure.
happened,
Yeah.
but
No,
bearing in mind that people have gone through some stuff.
yeah.
Where you ask that question, is it true? And they will, yeah, it happened, thanks. Like, I didn't ask for it to happen. Like, it happened. Like, I didn't even think that that was possible, and it happened. So where do we go to from
Mm,
there in terms of mental health? And how do we frame it in such a way that it doesn't come off as condescending or unsympathetic or compassionate? Do you know, like, I just want
yeah.
to, because it's always a challenge for me, and I know how I do it, but I'd love to hear your take on it, how you
Yeah.
would do it.
It's a great question. I think the very first thing I, I again, I take this as a privilege that still people will come and connect, in sessions, and I have, at this stage of the game and at certain levels of altitude that I get to play at, um the level of trauma people have suffered through, um is just, some of it's just unspeakable to hear some of these stories. And I'm tasked with motivating someone, or just get over
Mm,
it, move on, and you can't, you can't. It happened. But
yeah.
there is I do lean a lot on the fundamentals of my trainings in NLP, neuro linguistic
Yes.
programming, and I love the concept of NLP. Says there's a wonderful quote from that body of work that says it's never too late to have a good childhood, which means that at any point there's a thing called timeline therapy in NLP, which is that you can
Yeah.
re-access your memories, and you can go and visit carefully and well facilitated and well guided. You can go back to some of the most horrific moments,
Mm-hmm.
and you can revisit them at a distance, at a safe enough distance from emotional feelings and triggers, without having to relive traumatic moments. And one of the things it teaches is, what can we you can't undo what has happened, but
Yeah.
what is the learning that I could gain from it that could help my future self?
Mm,
Where the learning is enough, where I could integrate that learning and let the trigger of that moment
yeah.
go, as
Mm,
much as what's possible. And I don't think those things ever disappear, but what you can do is you can soften the intensity of it. And so
mm,
what I would
mm,
always say is, like, and the other part to this is, you got to distinguish about what had happened and what's about to happen.
yeah.
And I think what is very interesting for people that fall into a trigger, or panic attacks and anxiety or
Yeah.
fear or depression, is they're reliving an old moment, but they've carried that moment into a now moment. And one of the most important things that we can do as really powerful guides to somebody is to be able to parse out what is really happening in the moment
Mm-hmm.
versus what's just in the mind. And
Mm,
and I think that what I try to distinguish, to separate those things, is when someone is in fear, or a past trauma aspects or elements of the situation they're in feel like, or they have similarities to something they went through before. I really
mm,
try to create psychological safety, which is to just pause them for a minute and to say, look, you are safe here. You are safe with me. And just take a look around. Are those same things really here? Are they really
yeah.
real? No. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is really real right now? What are you hearing?
Mm,
What are you feeling? What are you sensing? And to try and bring them back into the now and into the moment, and to say that that
mm,
thing that's happening in your mind is in your mind, and you have the
mm,
ability to make it smaller. I don't think those things
yeah.
ever go away, but what we can do is make
Mm,
it smaller. And by making it smaller, we've got to put our focus on something else that we want to grow and make bigger. Because I love,
mm,
in energy management, is, where focus goes, energy flows.
mm,
And so when
yep.
you put a lot of focus on a pain point, the energy of that pain point grows. If you put your focus
Mm,
on something beautiful, the energy around that grows. And it's like, I call it, because I'm a musician, I call it my mixing desk. Which
mm,
channels am I dialing up and I'm dialing down? And you have
mm,
more control than we realize. And if there's anxiety and past voices and past episodes and traumas are revisiting, what we have to be able to do, and again, the peak of those curves, they don't last as long as we think they do. The
mm,
reason why those things last long is we put a lot of emphasis on it, and then people around us put emphasis. Oh, you okay? Are you? And so one of the
mm,
things we've got to do is try and let the trigger peak and drop off. And the best way to do that is let someone feel the things they're feeling. Okay, feel the things that you're feeling. Let the wave pass through and just notice that you're
mm,
safe here. Just
mm,
notice what is around you. And there
mm,
is a difference between then and now. So let's anchor on now. What are we
mm,
seeing now? Where are we now? And so I do think that there's some aspects in that when I'm dealing with people going through, it's not just as easy as get over it, or,
no.
is it, the is it true is real, but there's some subtleties to it. There's like
Yeah,
know the
I
audience and
agree.
know the
Subtleties and
context.
nuances.
But no, but the fundamental is still the same. Is it
Mm,
really true that that event is happening right now? No. Okay.
mm,
So let's work that through. How
yeah.
do we re-anchor you and ground you now? And
Mm,
one of the beautiful questions, by the way, that I've recently learned from another coach was they were talking about a scale. They drew a scale up of like 1 or 0 to 10 in life, and you can put any metric against that. Like, how am I doing on my relationships? How am I doing on my
mm,
personal growth? How am I doing on managing my anxiety? One
mm,
to 10. And you might give yourself a 6 or 5 or 6 or something like that. And what's interesting is humans, we're wired to constantly be trying to seek what's better. And so we'll look at this and go, I'm only a 6 out of 10. And we look at
mm,
the 6 to 10 as the deficit, as what's
yeah.
missing, what we're not
Mm,
achieving. But what's really beautiful about this is actually, why is it not a 3 that you're marking yourself? Why is it a
mm,
6?
mm,
So, what makes a difference between it being a 4 and a 6? So why a
mm,
6 and not a 4? And can you
mm,
look back and say, how much better have you become, or how much better are the circumstances, or where have you gotten better over
mm,
this period of time? And then you start to anchor and reinforce the positive aspects. And so what we're always trying to look for in that is to give someone something more courageous to anchor on than the fear, if that makes
mm,
sense. So true is it really true that it sucks? Is it really true that
mm,
it's that bad? Is it really true that you're in the same position? Is it really true that that
mm,
same moment is happening again?
mm,
No. Okay, so let's look at what you've learned. Let's look at what's better. Let's look
yeah.
at the progress you've made. Let's look at what you have to look forward to. Let's look at what else you could replace that energy with and direct your energy towards that would actually
Mhm.
give you a positive
Yeah.
outcome. So if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And it's interesting that you were mentioning the scale, because I actually do something with a lot of my clients, and some of my clients are really funny, because I'll say at the beginning of our session, we obviously do a grounding exercise, we do a focusing exercise. We're like, okay, let's lock in. And then I'll always ask them, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'm absolutely abhorrent, I can't, I'm just, life is awful. 10 being I'm so amazing, I'm euphoric, like life is just the best it can be. Like, where are we sitting at the moment?
Oh,
And I've got some clients who go, Jux, I'm at a -5. And I go, right, so we're right off the scale. Okay, cute. But one of the things I do is, it's not just about asking where you're at and clocking, because I do it because then I can go back and see, okay, is this improving? Are we
yeah.
actually, or is this a pattern? Am I noticing, like, we've got a
Yeah.
few months that we're
Great.
like this, and then a few months where we're like this? Like, what pattern am I noticing? But what I always do is, I'm like, what does that feel like to you? Because you're saying a 6, but for someone else, it might be a 3. So your
Mm,
6 and someone else's 3 can be the same, just different. So what
yeah.
does it feel like in your brain, firstly? And what does it feel like in your body? Like, what
Yeah.
is happening to you right now in this 6 moment? And oftentimes they'll go, you know what? I'm not actually a 6. I think I'm actually an 8. I
Yeah.
think I don't even think I'm a 6. And I go, okay, explain the change. Why the change in number? They're like, no, because I remember I said I was a 6 the last time, and actually I was feeling far worse than that I am feeling now. So, and I know that I'm definitely doing better. So it's almost like they have to recalibrate and relook at what is happening inside of them and what it is that is triggering something inside of them that's going, oh, well, this is just an awful day. And then what I do at the end of the session is I'm like, okay, where are you at now? Like, are we the same? What have we learned? Like, what is the takeaway? And where are we sitting? Some people will go like, I feel worse. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
cute. Why do you feel worse? What's going on? So it's that also being okay with not being okay and having to
Yeah.
ask yourself the hard questions. Like,
Yeah.
what is tripping me up here? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that I'm not willing to let go of in order to get to the other side?
And
Um,
that comes back to like that, what do you believe in greater in more? Like I'm still allowing that inner voice to hold me back. I'm still believing I'm
mhm,
not good enough. I'm still worried that I'm not going to get this outcome. I'm
yeah.
still and
Mm,
again, it's like, oh, I'm noticing the fear is kind of edging out the courage here. So what's the courage needed? And it's a very interesting, gentle one. I have one other provocative one, which I use carefully, but it's kind of a bit of, and you know me, so it's kind of part of my signature in my eternal optimism in life. That when you said like you don't see me in bad moods that much, and it takes a lot for me to get there. My
mm,
window of tolerance is great. If I do get triggered, it's a thing, but I've also we have to use our own practices. But
mm,
here's one thing, that when somebody is very, very upset or they're talking about something, I get so excited for them. Yeah, I know it
mm,
sounds counterintuitive, but I'm like, oh my, I'm so happy that you were 3. I'm so excited. Like, how amazing. What an opportunity to be at a 4 right now, or a 5 or a 3.
mm,
And they're like, what are you
mm,
talking about? I'm like, well, like, there is so much richness in this. There's so much
mm,
gold in this. Like, let's
mm,
get curious. Like, I believe that we're exactly where we are. If we really think about it, no matter where we are in life is exactly where we are meant to be. And what
mm,
that means is look at the conditions that we're in. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling like, great. Okay, so lean into it. Don't avoid the emotion. Don't push
mm,
that down. Don't
mm,
uh, you know, not give that version of you or that facet of you its moment, because it's
mm,
there to teach you something. So get excited. Oh, I'm a 3. Amazing. Let's dig in. So what's that
mm,
about? And
mm,
then you suddenly go like, well, it's because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, amazing. Well, imagine you didn't pause to get all like angry about something, or that you weren't super depressed about something. Like, then we may have avoided building a deeper, intimate relationship with our inner self and our inner voice.
yeah,
That's what depression is, going within. If I'm
yeah,
angry and frustrated, maybe you come to the point where you've reached your threshold of what you're willing to tolerate. But
mm,
if we don't give ourselves and honor ourselves the feeling and the emotion, and wherever we've graded ourselves on the scale, we miss the learning. So get
yeah,
really excited about it. And I had this major breakthrough some years back that kind of became a bit of a signature in my own coaching and sort of advisory stuff, which I was I was dealing with a really, really, really difficult project, and some difficult clients who kept going kind of into this swirl. We were sort of bashing our head on a similar challenge, and I was throwing everything that I could at this toolkit at them to help this team get through. But it was tough, and they were just caught in this. Yeah, but oh, this is the problem. They were just
mm,
what we would call being stuck in a pit. And at
mm,
the same time, I was my son was younger, and he kind of fell into the love of gaming, sort of computer gaming.
mm,
And I was watching him play the game because he was so excited. He was like, Daddy, Daddy, watch this. I'm collecting the blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, he would get to this, in these games, these adventure games, you collect all these amulets and stuff, and they walk these pathways, and then they suddenly go through a portal, and then they're facing off against some giant creature, and they got to like use all these superpowers and then defeat the creature, and then blah, 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 the portal opens and they move on. And this insight came to me, which was every level has a new devil.
mhm,
Every level has a new devil. And I suddenly got this kind of reframe. How do you take a pain point and turn it into your superpower? And it goes back to another question that you asked just now, which was, and I realized the breakthrough for the team was I walked into that next session with them and I just started clapping. I was like, I'm so excited for you. Every level has a new devil. Did you know, team, that you're facing the end of this level? You're facing the big boss, the big creature, that you've got to use everything in your power, because as soon as you do this, you get to elevate as a team to your next level. This is your test. This is your
100%.
marker.
Yeah.
And so that was massive. And so when you asked me earlier about folk that are suffering from things, I had a client recently at a session come up to me who said, hey, I've been diagnosed with being autistic, and we were working on personal leadership purpose in the room. And she says, but in personal purpose, we have a section where we say, okay, barriers and root causes that would stand in the way of you being able to live out your full version of your purpose. And she said, I always come back to the same thing. I have autism. And I'm not going to be able to achieve half the things. And I said, well, is that true? And then I said,
No.
what if your autism is your superpower, which means you have to find a pathway that is not conventional and that no one else has ever been on? And I just watched this person light up. They hooked on that so hard, and they came back. I found these 7 strategies and this thing, because what was suddenly interesting is they were trying to compare themselves to everyone else, where you got to look at your unique situation and the things you're dealing with and say to yourself, what a gift. No one else in the world has this combination of ingredients to wrestle with. And if I solve this, I get to elevate to the next level. So I know it's multiple things in there, but that's a couple of things that I wanted to share, which was this concept of every level has a new devil, and to go in and celebrate the pain as much as possible, because you suddenly rewire your neurology to look at hardship coming at you as opportunity. Because we always, well, always is a big word. Often we will notice that human beings associate challenges with, oh my God, here we go again, or this is so bad. Whereas I think, to me, where I say the future is for the courageous, it's because if you can train your mind to look at something that's really tough coming at you, and you rub your hands together and you go, I am so excited. Now, all the neurology in the body and the mind is saying, you are insane. Why on earth are you thinking about it this way? Why would you be getting excited? But it changes the game, because you go like, there's a pain point. Oh, this is the next level. This is the access to the next level. You suddenly completely start rewiring the creativity that enters your mind, the way you look at the world around you, how you start interacting with people, how you treat yourself. So there's something in that, which is, if you can make your pain and the suffering your opportunity, I've noticed the most remarkable things to happen. Again, it doesn't. I'm not acknowledging the traumas that people have gone through, or the difficulties that people are suffering with. The more we let the suffering and the trauma win, the more we stay stuck. The more we turn it into a superpower and an opportunity, the more you get to create the life that you want to create. Is what I've experienced.
I've always thought, like, moving through your trauma and your pain is rather, like, a lot of people do stay stuck in it, and their life is built around what happened. And it's so interesting because one of my kids has just so many autoimmune situations. And she has always said from the get-go, from the time she was diagnosed when she was 7 years old, she said to me, I don't want that to be who I am, though. Like, I don't want that to define me. Like, yeah, it's there and it's a part of me, but I don't want that to be the thing that people know about me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I want them to know the things I love and the things I'm good at and the things I bring to the table. And, like, I don't want there to be such a big focus on the stuff that trips me up sometimes because of my health, that they forget that I have so much else to offer. And I think that's what happens to people when they are in pain and they get stuck in pain, is they lose sight of what it is that they're capable of and what it is that they still have to give, to learn, to grow, to, like, expand, right? Because the thing is, we're continually building neural pathways all the time. We're continually building neural pathways. And I had a conversation with someone today, which was amazing. And he said to me, do you believe that traumatic brain injury alters the way that the brain works? And I said, well, it depends on the traumatic brain injury. Yes, but at the same time, I also believe that the brain is such a powerful tool that if we give it the chance, we can develop new neural pathways and different ways of doing things that we never would have thought of before. And I just have to look at my husband's brain. So Anthony's brain, 15 lesions on his brain, the myelin sheath that's shot, multiple sclerosis, not a great disease, don't love it. But you know what? That man, his brain has changed so much in the last 12 years. And it's been amazing to me how his brain has actually flipped, pivoted, made these other neural pathways that he's become not like a completely new person, but almost like he's just thinking differently, better. He soaks things up like a sponge where, like, my kids always joke and they say, like, when we were small, he was the dad. Like, he was the dad that went to work and came home from work, and he worked in like an 8 to 5 and, like played golf and did the kayaking and cycling and the everything. And interestingly enough, when he got diagnosed, I remember coming back from the neurologist, and it's that thing, I think it blends into that thing that you were saying about being excited. I wasn't excited, but he
never starts out that way.
no, he was kind of like,
this sucks.
I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to die. I've got multiple. I'm going to leave you all. Like, I'm going to leave you, and then I'm going to die. And I was like, I was driving, and I'll never forget. I was like, whoa, buddy, just like I said, do you know what? Like, if you die, you're going to go to heaven, and I'm going to be a millionaire. So, like, I don't know what the problem is. Like, it's going to be fun. And it took a beat. He like looked at me. And then he saw my face and he packed out laughing. And I was like, no one's dying just yet, buddy. We've got some years. Shall we just put the dying on the back burner?
Yeah.
And let's just concentrate on actually living and doing it. Yes, we've got this disease. Yes, it's not great. And yes, some days are really shitty. But actually, we've got some years ahead of us, and we'll take what we can get, and we will go with it, and we'll build on it, and we'll get stronger in it. And I think it was from there that we actually realized that Ant's brain is quite phenomenal. Like, just watching how his brain has had to compensate with neural pathways that have been interrupted, that have been disturbed, that no longer actually work. And yet he's found other ways. His brain has found other ways of doing things. So I get excited when people say to me, I can't do it. And I'm like, let's think about that word, can't. It's the same as always. You said earlier, I don't like the word always. So I used to say to my kids when they were little, they would go, Mommy, you always know. Like, hang on. That implies that I do it in my sleep. And as gifted as I am, that is just not within my capability. I cannot do this in my sleep. I'm sleeping. I'm enjoying it. Always is not the word we're going to use. We're going to use often. We're going to use sometimes. We can even use percentages. You can say, Mommy, 80% of the time you disagree with me. Cute. I can. But we're not going to use the word always. It's the same as can't. We're just not going to say that. We're not going to say can't, because what we say, the words that we speak, and I need your take on this. So I believe the words that we speak over our souls matter, because our bodies hold memory. And our body will automatically believe anything we tell it. So, and funnily enough, we tend to believe the negative stuff far better than we tend to believe the positive stuff, which is weird. Do you know why that is? Because I haven't figured it out yet. But like, what is your take on, in terms of being courageous and flipping that switch? And you said, like, you you had the strategy where you walked back into the room with these clients and you got excited, and every level, new devil, right? So they're at the end. So what did that actually do to the room? And did they actually buy into that? And was there that belief that kind of went, oh, wait, actually, yes. Like, what actually happened in that scenario?
Well, I'll sort of anchor on something I've been using for a minute, because I've been thinking a lot about this question. I think about this question pretty much at the beginning, at the end of each day, what you're framing, because I've gotten into a loop, and our team's gotten into a loop it's what we call think, plan, do, review. So we before we go into any situation, even like coming to our call here today together, is how should I be thinking about this before you
Hmm.
just walk in? Because how I should think about it puts you into a sense of one, in NLP, they call this thing called the 3 points of position. First point of position, I'm in my body looking out my eyes, right? Second point of position, I'm imagining what it's like to be in you looking through your eyes. Third point of position is I'm a fly on the wall looking at the system. That's like sort of an empathy piece.
Mm.
But I do think that and when you play into that, you start to shift neurological perception. So what I've come to learn in this is that you can track in your life results. And now this is going to sound a little bit sort of high performance for a minute, but
Right.
it has to actually, it comes back down to this. So if you look at human beings, we're always trying to achieve certain outcomes. We want things in life, or we want certain types of qualities of life, whether it's health or relationships, or
Mm.
that's a result. That's an outcome. So
Yeah.
the results and the outcomes we get in life, the ones we're getting, or the ones we
Mm.
desire to get, are all fundamentally trackable to the behaviors that you practice every day. And the
Oh,
behaviors that you practice every day are how you wake up and you run through your day, your
yes.
rituals, your routines, what you do,
Yes.
how you show up, the sequence of events, the choices that you make, behaviors. Now, your behaviors are all absolutely trackable to your state of mind and your thinking.
Mm.
And your thinking is influenced by the insights that you gain if you're willing to get curious and understand. And so
Mm.
this think, plan,
Oh,
do,
that's so
review
good.
cycle, and I'll go back around. Think, plan, do, review cycle is if I walk into any situation, and even it could be literally 5 seconds, the phone's ringing. How should I be thinking about how I want to show up with this call right now? What's my mood? What's my emotion? What do I want out of this? How should I think about this? Oh, I'm meeting Jax right now. How should I be thinking about this? Oh, how nice. It's not the way I was thinking about that last call, which was with an executive, organization going through their stuff. I should be thinking about this differently because this is my sister and this is, I love this person
Mm.
and we've history and stuff and we're going to have a great conversation. I should be thinking
Yeah.
about it that way. So what
Yeah.
part of myself am I letting go and what part of myself am I bringing in? Now,
Yes.
let me plan for that in my mind. I'm going to plan up to how do I want to show up to this? I'm going to show up with energy and openness and honesty and transparency. Now let's go and do that. Let's go and have the
Mm.
conversation. Let's do this
Mm.
beautiful podcast. And afterwards, when we hang up, before I go to my next call, I'm going to review like, how did that go? If I was
Mm.
going to go jump on the again with her, would I do anything different? Would I have said anything different? Would I have
Mm.
showed up anything different? That then feeds how I would think about the next thing.
Mm.
So we get into a loop because that
Yes.
allows you to have ownership. So similarly, I will look at and track results, or I ask people and I really help people to try and identify what are you getting in life?
Yeah.
What is happening in your life? What's the result of your life?
Yeah.
Now let's look at the behaviors you practice on a day-to-day basis to create those results.
Mm.
Now, avoidance is still a behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That is.
Um, and so or initiative. And then why avoidance? Let's look at your state of mind. And now let's look at how did we get to this kind of state of mind? Where did those insights come from? And so what's beautiful about this is that, like you said earlier, you can change your state of mind.
Mhm.
I can choose in any moment how to perceive or feel about a
Yeah.
situation. So if I want a happy result, if I want to be successful, if I want to have a great relationship, if I want to be great at a certain kind of profession, then
Mm.
what behaviors am I practicing each day to get there? And what's my state of mind? Do I believe in myself?
Yeah.
Which voice am I listening to inside my head? Because
Yep.
I tell you one thing that I have also learned, and this is 100% of the time, 100% of the time. And anybody on this call, you can call me up, get on my email and argue with me about this. And I will demonstrate that I think I'm right on this one. Is that 100% of the time, our inner voice, our true
Mm.
inner voice is never, never mean to us. It is the kindest, most nurturing, most loving, greatest fan that we could ever have. Now,
Yeah.
any other
Yeah.
voice beyond the one, the critic, the imposter, the punisher,
Mm.
the one
Mm.
that's shouting. When you get that voice to say, "I'm not good enough, and this isn't going to work, and I can't, and I'm unattractive, and I'm not never going to be successful," ask yourself, whose voice is that?
Mm.
And I guarantee it'll never be yours. I guarantee it'll never be
Mm.
yours. It'll be someone else. It'll be mom, it'll be dad, it'll be the person or the thing. It's the boyfriend that dumped me. It's
Yeah.
the girlfriend that left me. It's the something or the other. And then what is
Mm.
interesting about that is, how does that now shape your state of mind? And when it shapes your state of mind, what's the very next behavior you start to practice? And then what's the result of that behavior? And so everything is trackable and traceable. And if you want to, and look, there's one thing I'll say, Jax, it's easy to kind of say this stuff, but I will say that this, and you know me. I practice this stuff every day. There's
Mhm.
nothing I have to that bad mood to good mood, the excruciating anxiety I suffered from, even being on medication, to get off of that has
Mm.
all come from taking ownership and causality of the results that I want to have in life. And I tell you, for
Yeah.
anyone listening to this, whether you're suffering from radical ailments or you have everything going for you, um, the best way, the very best way to live a courageous life, but also the very best way to have the life you want, is to become responsible for the results of the things that you're dealing with. And when you become responsible for those results, meaning like, this is what it is, start to think about the behaviors you want to that are going to be necessary to get a different result, and then keep anchoring back. How am I thinking about this? What is my state of mind? And if you can own your state of mind and you can own your behaviors, no one can ever judge you for your results. If that makes sense. Again,
Do you know
I keep saying
something that
everything.
just came to me just while you were saying that? I think there's a part of you that has always believed that. And I'm thinking back to a time when we were at school, and I don't know what I was going through. Like I was a sassy girl. Like, please, there was so much drama. But I remember the one day I came to you and you had given me advice. You had you'd literally told me what the answer was. Like, you fed it to me like, here we go. It's, you know, um, and I still came back to you the next day and I was complaining about something. And it's one of the few times that you've been angry with me. And I'll
Oh,
tell you, you've never really been angry with me, but one of the few times. And you looked at me and I could just see, I thought, oh shit, now I've done it. Because you looked at me and you went, Jackie, you need to get out of your own damn way. Stop listening to all the other voices and listen to your own. And I was like, and you're like, oh, and you walked away. And I think we had like third and fourth period. And then it was second break. And I was still so
wow.
stunned because you'd never spoken to me like that before. And you came back and you put your arms around me and you were like, I'm really sorry. And I was like, no, it's okay. I'll just get out of my own damn way. Makes sense. Needed to hear it. Like when you're talking to me now about the practices and listening to what voice are you listening to? Like, there's a
Yeah.
couple of voices in my head that I listen to on purpose. So one of them obviously would be yours. The other is
Oh,
my very best friend of long time who just turned 50, Jackie Ford.
yeah.
And
Love the
and
Jackie.
like, if Jackie Ford and I, if you put us on paper, like if you looked at us on paper, you'd probably go, I don't know if they'd be friends. Like, she jumps out of planes, I will be in the plane. She is on the boat, I am in the water. She is up the mountain, I am the flat land. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you look at us, but she is so courageous. Like, And when I mean courageous, I mean not just in the things that she does, but she does not allow herself to say, I can't do it. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm so scared. I'm going to do it. Like, we're going to do it. And I'm like, I think I'm going to be over here and watch you do it. That feels safer to me. That is a safe bet. And I remember, like, in high school, she was the one person who would not let me give up. Absolutely would not. There were a few people in my life that would not. And the one time was you, where you told me to get on my own damn way. And I was like, okay, right.
Okay.
And then it was always Jackie going, no, but you can't do that. Like, you have to do this. You have to actually you can't give up now. You have to actually look at this differently. And it was that constant kind of reworking of a situation, like constantly telling me, like, that's not how it's going to go. Until eventually I was telling myself that. I was going,
Yeah.
you know what? It's like when I was paralyzed. I was like, oh, wait, this is not my story. We're not doing this. This is not going to be a thing. I'm going to organize some wheelchair races, and I'm going to organize some other races outside in my wheelchair. And then this is not going to be my story. Like, I don't, no. And in my brain, I just refused. It was super scary. Like,
Yeah.
make no mistake, to go from having feeling to having no feeling from the waist down, to now having to rely on people to get me from A to B, and having that little inner voice going, I don't agree with this. This is not the thing. I'm
Yeah.
sure this is not how it was meant to go. Um,
Yeah. Powerful.
and it's just looking at wellness, and looking at grounding yourself, and looking at what voices do you allow in, and
Yeah.
what voices do you actually go, I'm I'm not gonna. And I want to ask you that because I know that, like, I know most of your life, and I know the ins and
Yeah.
outs of your life, and I know where you've come from and where you are now. And like, when I look at you on paper, I'm like, wow. And then I look at you and I'm like, no, but it's Kyle. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? It's Kyle. And
They're
then I
just
look again
words.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. So it's that you do a lot. Like, and you've got a very tight schedule. You've very dynamic and full schedule, as you say. But what is your wellness routine? Like, what is it that you do
Mm,
for your mental health that builds your wellness, and, like, for want of a better word, like, cuts out the noise?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what
Signal
is
to noise.
your
Yeah. The work there is called signal to, like, if for those that are into science and stuff, it's called signal to noise ratio is
mm,
the practice. Um,
like,
but
calm to
sorry, I
chaos?
cut you. Yeah. 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 Other way around. Chaos to calm.
Chaos to calm. Calm to chaos, chaos to calm. In mine, it's calm to chaos in
Oh, calm
30
to chaos.
seconds
Yeah.
and then back down again. Like,
And then back
you
down
know,
again. Let me answer. It's a great question about the routine. Let me frame one thing up as you were speaking that I feel like it's important, which is actually also part of my wellness routine. Is let's talk about environment for a moment, because
ooh,
environment really
that's a good
matters.
one.
And some folk maybe on this call, they will look at it. Yeah, it's wonderful, but I don't have the resources and I'm not in the environment for it. And I hear you, and I hear you. And one thing that I've learned, although I love where we grew up and I love where we came from, it was a very limiting place. And so
Mm,
I think very early I met a very inspirational person who said to me, "You are not where you come from.
mm,
Where you come from can shape you, but it doesn't have to be who you always are.
yep.
Meaning that you can change your circumstances if
Mm,
you truly want to. Results, behaviors, mindset."
mm,
Um, Environment matters, and what I mean by environment is where you spend your time and with whom you spend your time, and what you feed yourself is my wellness
mm,
routine. And so I'm I very rarely at all listen to the news. I don't subscribe to negative media. I spend
mm,
very little time with with people who are, although my profession and my job is to go into very highly toxic and highly volatile environments,
I was going to
it's
say,
but it's not that I sit to entertain those conversations.
no,
My job is to go into
to change,
is is
to
is to is to is to
ignite
break
change.
the pattern and to state
Mm.
shift. It's really to shift the mindset and to shift the
Yeah.
patterning. So so in order to do that, to not be overwhelmed by the environment, because for any empath on this call, you can imagine when you walk into place and you feel everyone's stuff. I'm like that, so I feel everybody's stuff. But what I've learned to do is to ensure that I'm very strong in my own convictions of my own voice
Mm,
and my own mind. But to be able
mm,
to trust your own inner voice, you got to have a really strong practice of
yeah.
environmental awareness, and I don't mean that from a nature conservationist, but it is kind of metaphorically like a nature
Mm.
conservationist. Is your environment matters, meaning, there's that quote, you become the five people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And you start taking on perceptions, you take on behaviors, you take on characteristics. So if you're
Mm,
living in certain environments, you will find yourself starting to be influenced by those environments. And so be very conscious of where you spend your time and with who you spend your time. And one of the best, for
mm,
me, my best metric is my energy marker. If I leave a call or I leave spending time with a person, do I feel elevated or deflated? And it
mm.
can be sometimes very subtle, but are you giving a lot to someone who is just vampiring and feeding from you, and they're not giving you anything
Ooh,
in return? Be very careful of that. It's very
yeah.
subtle. There's other people when you're a high vibration person like myself or like you and others, is that people will look at this life and say, "This is an amazing life to have. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. This is a choice for me." But
Mm,
as my mom says, um, when you climb a high mountain that goes into very thin air, it's really hard to breathe the higher up the mountain you go, and it's not
yeah.
for everybody. And in order to live
Mm,
up there, if you're a Sherpa, you've got to have different types of practices. So for me, sleep, what you feed your mind and in the information you give it, who you listen to, what you feed your
mm,
body in terms of nutrition, right down to the
mm,
fundamentals. I wear a Whoop, so I track and an Aura, so I track my data relentlessly.
mm,
My sleep patterns, my stress patterns, my heart rate variability patterns. I'm very careful that I do a sort of a tuning when I'm in any environment in and out to have sensory perception on how am I feeling leaving that place? What are the vibes that
yes.
I'm carrying with me? How do I cleanse that? How
Yes.
do I care for that? Exercise, movement, meditation. Nature's my number one thing. I'm literally
Mm,
a feral creature really inside. I just love running around in the wild. And the further I am away from nature and the longer I call that my rewilding practice. So the
mm,
rewilding is I'm a real wild human, and I go into very conservative, constrained, constructed places, like caged places. I walk
mm,
into zoos and into prisons, and metaphorically speaking, and I have to bust people out and help show them
mm,
that, look, the walls are self-imposed, the doors are open, the windows are open, the fresh air can
mm,
flow through.
mm.
But it is very easy to be impressioned by that. It's very easy to carry
Yeah.
that with you. And so my
Yeah.
practices across the board are tracking data, really looking at measurements, the unseen things, having
Wow.
advisory councils around me, having people call me out, having people really
Yeah.
tune in, people watching my back, and then being very disciplined in what I eat and what I drink and who I spend
Mm,
my time. But environment matters like more than
mm.
we can realize. And
I
and
agree
and
with
I'll
that.
tell you, like, just always think about this, like, what do you feed yourself consciously or unconsciously? Because what
Yeah.
you feed yourself is what fuels you, and what fuels you
Mm,
starts to grow. And I've learned the hard way, and I'm kind of actually in that right now because I spoke to my wife just a couple nights ago, and we have this joke where if we are self-critical on ourselves, she goes, "Don't talk about my boyfriend or my lover that way or my husband that way." It's like,
That's so
like if I
cute.
and so, but I said to her, I used these words the other day. I am very embarrassed and disgusted in myself. Allowed myself to index too far to a point where it's starting to, and I didn't catch it fast enough because my schedule's been insane. Um,
Mm,
really insane. Like if I break it down, people say like, "How is that even possible?" But the work fuels, and I have not protected my my personal environment and my energetic
Yeah.
field, and I let myself slip to the point where I was like, wow, that is a significant slip. And so
Yeah.
the inner voice, my inner voice, which is actually very kind, you need to be loving with yourself. And then I have this other voice, which is always on, you're terrible and you're a bad person. So those two voices come together and argue inside of my head. But what was really great about it is that they could both agree. They could both agree. My
Mm,
nurturing voice and my punishing voice could both agree. I need to recalibrate my routine. And I realized, oh, I'm facing my devil right now. And my devil is this new
right.
level that we're at with this merger and this integrations and all these changes that happen in our world and our business has taken me up to a place which is all new.
Yeah.
And at this new place, all my existing routines have to be reimagined and reset and rethought of
Yes.
because my old system, they call that evolutionary mismatch. The world around us and our environment has evolved based on our
Okay.
desires and what we work towards. But my world around me has evolved, but my systems have not. So
Right.
I now have to recalibrate my systems to match the environment that I'm in. So
Wow.
do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
it does. It's
Yeah.
kind of revolutionary in my brain because I'm like, I'm
Because we have to.
processing it as you're speaking it, and I'm like,
Okay.
wow, that makes so much sense.
So my routine was like, oh, I'm home and I have the same hour structures each day, and I'm working out at an office. No, I'm not. I've been on 36 flights this year. I'm jumping I think this last week I was in 4 different hotels. I was in 3 different countries and across 17 hours of time zone change. Where do you find time to
Wow.
have a healthy, balanced meal when you're on planes and hotels and restaurants and stuff? And where do you find time to exercise? So the system, not that that's going to be
Mm,
the consistent system, but where is the new system that I'm in? My old system of practices does not calibrate to the
mm,
environment I'm in. So the
yep.
evolutionary mismatch means that I then am in conflict with myself. So you
Yes.
constantly have to recalibrate. So the nurturing and the punishing voice saying, this isn't good enough. And my nurturing voice saying, you need to love yourself more. So now that thankfully the two of them have come together and said, you got to reset. So that's what I've been doing over the last 24 to 48 hours, which is a constant practice to say, how
Mm,
do I now create the environment and the conditions
mm.
around me to be able to show up as my best self? Results, behaviors, state of mind.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like people who are listening today are going to get so much insight from this conversation because it's very rare that we have people on who are so willing to give of their knowledge and their time, right? Who are actually just like, you know what, I'm not gatekeeping. This is how it goes. This is what you need. Another person who did that was the lovely Dana Grant, who I got to speak to fairly recently, who's just like a force of nature. Just love her to bits. You guys would actually have a great conversation, actually. But
Ah,
it's so good to hear you speak so honestly. Not that you wouldn't, because you're a pretty honest person, um, but so honestly about your own struggle. Because I know that a lot of people looking from the outside in, like you were saying, go, wow, like this life is amazing. And, but actually, when we hear you go, no, guys, listen, like it takes, there's some work that needs to happen here. And I think it's really incredible that people can go, oh, right. So he also has to do it. Like it doesn't
yeah.
actually, it's also like, because
Relentlessly.
people forget, right? They forget.
Mhm.
Um,
There is no fixed destination, is what I've
yeah,
come to realize.
that's actually what I was going to
It's
say.
tectonic plates, like it's always
Yeah,
moving, always moving.
yeah. So I know you've got other places to be. So I want to
I do. I've
just,
got to jump onto. I
I
got to
know.
go
So
and coach.
I just want to quickly say thank you. And I love you. Like,
I love you too.
you're still my brother. I still adore you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of everything that you've accomplished. I'm so proud of the family that you have, of your gorgeous wife, your children. I'm so proud of the mark that you're leaving, the legacy that you're leaving. I'm so proud of, in a positive way, you've actually just got out their own damn ways and done things. It's a cool moment in my memory. Leave me alone.
Oh, there's a lot
So
of people I'm yelling at now saying that. So don't worry, you're not alone. There should be a club, the Get Out of My Own Damn Way Club.
what is the one thing that you would want to say to the young people out there?
The one thing that comes to mind, and I always trust the first thing that comes to mind, is follow your nurture. There are so many reasons to the old mental models in the world were suffer to succeed, and a lot of people around you are going to try and convince you that you have to suffer in order to be successful. It's absolute BS. Just do everything you can to just do what lights you up and what feels nurturing to you. Now that, sometimes you might not be clear on purpose or on passion, but you will know that if you spend time doing certain things, you will feel a sense of nurturing. And the other thing that I would just say is spend as much time as you can getting familiar with your voice versus someone else's voice, and always follow your own voice, because your own voice really is the key.
Thank you. Kyle, thank you so much. Love you to the moon and back. Go jump on the next call. Be brilliant in every way, because you always are. And love to your gorgeous family.